You're tuned in to the Binge It Babe podcast with your host, me, Candace Estelle. All right, babes, let's get binging. Hey, hi, hello, and how are you, babes? It's me, your Binge It Babe, Candace Estelle, bringing you part 2 of our Twister series. And here we're going to be discussing the sequel, Twisters. Twisters stars Daisy Edgar-Jones from Where the Crawdads Sing. It stars Anthony Ramos from Hamilton. And it stars Glen Powell from Top Gun Maverick, Hitman, Anyone But You. He's got quite a few things that have just come out, so he's basically killing it right now. Okay, let's dive right in. So, if you watched the first episode, you're already completely aware that Twister is the top 3 movie for me. So, when I found out that the sequel was happening and that it was real, I was incredibly excited. And if you're thinking, what do you mean that it's real? Well, about a year ago, I was sent a trailer that was very clearly pieces of the movie Into the Storm, pieces of the movie Twister, and pieces of, I don't know, just maybe even Sharknado. And I was like, hey, this is a fake trailer. Why would you get my hopes up like that? And then Twisters really was happening. And I hadn't believed it. And so when I found out that Twisters was real and happening, I was incredibly excited. I did not watch any of the trailers though, because for me, I try not to watch trailers if I know it's a movie I'm going to see because I feel like a lot of the times trailers maybe give too much away. Maybe there's a really good joke and they just play it in the trailer. So by the time you actually see the movie, you're like, yeah, well, I've laughed at that already. I laughed at that in a 30-second clip on IMDb. I didn't want that life for this movie. So I didn't see the trailer until after I saw the movie. And I have now seen it twice in theaters. And this is the first time I've even gone to the theater this year. I'm usually a theater girl. I love being at the movies. I love popcorn and a big screen and, surround sound. I'm all for the experience. But I just haven't gone to the movies since I moved. I've been pretty busy. I haven't gone to the movies. Actually, aside from Twisters, I think the last movie I saw in theater was Oppenheimer. And that was the same week I saw Barbie because I Barbenheimered. And I don't think I've seen anything else since, which is actually kind of bananas for me because that's been like a year. Very atypical year last year. Very glad it's over. So I went and saw Twisters the moment it came out. And then I thought, hey, it would be so fun to get to do an episode about this. I wrote an article about Twister and Twisters on my Medium if you want to go check out that article. And then I'm also going to be talking about Twisters on another podcast with Buddy Gott, who runs the podcast Gotta Pop. And if I do my best, I will put the information for his podcast in the description of my podcast so that, they're combined there. I am super excited to get to talk about this film and to get to talk about it so much because I already wrote the article for Medium for the specific publication Plethora of Pop. And then I went ahead and I did the Twister session yesterday, the podcast filming yesterday. And then I went and saw Twisters again yesterday. And I came back and I thought I could film right now, but also I can't. I can't. It's like 8:30 at night. The light will not be good because I don't have a professional setup. Like I was trying to use my DSLR thinking that would give me the best quality. And if you did see the Supernatural ones, you'll remember the lovely little autofocus box that I just could not get rid of. And then I decided I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with the battery going out on me after an hour. I'm not dealing with the fact that the autofocus box won't go away. I'm not dealing with the fact that every half an hour I have to get up to restart the camera. So here we are. I'm using my cell phone. I've got windows open on both sides so that there's not a shadow on one side of my face. And I'm just hoping that this homespun version is good enough for now because I think that this is a really fun show. I think it's really fun. I think it can be even more fun when I get more, experience. I forgot the word experience even when I get more experience, when I learn how to do things better, but I also want things to feel kind of homegrown, right? Like I'm sitting in my living room at my desk, you know, and I'm eating food that I make for the most part, and I'm cosplaying stuff that I basically already have, you know. I try to make it feel very attainable because this is totally attainable. You know, this kind of conversation and chilling like this and just hanging out. I want it to feel very friendly. You know, I want it to feel like you're hanging out with your friend Candace and you guys are just having conversations about movies and TV shows and books and it's fun and maybe I have a different, you know, take on something than you or a different feel for something than you do and you don't mind because we love to chat about things. So it's all wonderful and beautiful and magical and yes, you know? However you want to put that. Or you can watch me and just hate me the whole time and be like, oh, that bitch, can't stand her. And hate watch, I guess. Doesn't matter to me. A view's a view, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoy me. And if you don't, I hope that whatever anger you get out from watching me is therapeutic to you in some way. So, like I said, let's jump in to 2024's Twisters. This movie is very much so a homage to the 1996 film. There were a lot of callbacks, and it did a wonderful job of keeping you in that world, keeping you in the universe of Twister, still feeling more modern, not feeling like a nostalgia play in terms of it didn't feel like they were playing on our emotions on purpose. There are some franchises, Jurassic World, that really they did it for the nostalgia. They didn't do it for the plot. They didn't do it for, you know, the fact that it was good film. They did it to say, hey, we know we took your money a lot in the 90s and we're going to do it again. And you'll deal with it because you're big fans, right? And you're hoping to get something out of this. Twisters isn't like that. Twisters says, hey, we know what you want and we're going to give it to you. And I think that that's really beautiful. I took a lot of notes while I was at the theater yesterday, which is kind of crummy if you ask me to like sit there taking notes, you know, in the middle of a movie. So I do want to point out I went to like a 4 p.m. in the middle of the week, so a 4 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I was completely alone. There were three other people in the entire theater, and they were all 4 rows away from me, wasn't bothering anyone. And this is not the first time I saw the movie. I literally went back yesterday to be able to take notes because I wanted to get this right. That being said, this gonna have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, pause right here. Let me tell you, go see it in theaters. I am a frugal woman. I'm not wasting my money to see something twice in theaters if I hate it. Maybe if I hate it, just because, you know, it's that therapy. But it's great. It's wonderful. See it in theaters if you haven't seen it yet, because I'm about to spoil every little bit of this movie. So if you are like, oh, I haven't seen it yet, I'm just wanting to hear how you feel about it, listen to a different podcast, read my article where I don't give as much away, you know, or maybe when I'm on Gotta Pop, that won't be spoiler inducing. This right here, Binge It Babe, I literally tell you everything I can possibly remember that happens. I do my best to do it in order, but I'm not so great at that. You've seen the Supernatural episodes where, you know, 3 seasons later, I remember that something happened really important in season 5, and I'm like, oh, whoops, here we go. I be spoiling things, okay? You've been warned. Now you've been warned for like 30 straight seconds. So if you get upset that I spoiled this for you at this point, you're a brat and you need to make better life decisions. Here we go. So it opens on Daisy Edgar-Jones' character and her group of friends. And immediately I saw Kieran and Shipka. And like I said, I didn't see the trailer, but I did see the poster, and the poster says Daisy Edgar-Jones, Anthony Ramos, Glen Powell. And so when I saw Kiernan Shipka, I immediately thought, she's about to die. She has to. She's about to die. And if you're thinking, why would you be able to equate that so quickly? Because Kiernan Shipka is enough of a name. I would say she's just as big of a name as Daisy Edgar-Jones. Definitely more household of a name than Anthony Ramos, unless you're someone who enjoys Broadway, which, I do. But it's one of those things where I was like, as soon as I saw her, I was thinking, this is a Scream Drew Barrymore moment because she is a big enough name. We would not expect her to die immediately, and she's gonna. So I knew that was coming. And then I put it together and I was like, wait a second. Glen Powell for sure is going to be the romantic lead in this movie. So either the boyfriend she's with in the beginning is not interested, they break up, something, or he's going to die immediately too. And then, of course, we see Dorothy, and I'm bad at Roman numerals, but I think it was Dorothy 5 at the very beginning of the movie, and she's there for the data for Anthony Ramos's character Javi for his data, and she's not doing the data collection, which was the big deal in Twister. She is trying to tame a tornado by using poly something sort of polycarbon. Oh, that's something I should have written down. She's using little biodegradable balls that basically the tornado is supposed to suck up, and it will take the force out of the tornado basically by taking the um like the moisture out, lets the gas out basically, where the tornado is just like, I'm hungry, there's nothing in my belly and I cannot continue this destructive way of mine. So that's her goal. It's now, instead of just getting the data, which was our 1996 goal, it is, we're stopping it in its tracks. We're cutting the cord. We're making it behave. And so at the very beginning, it's her and her team, and it's her team is her boyfriend. It's Kiernan Shipka, who I believe her character's name is Addie. It's Javi, so Anthony Ramos, and it is Praveen, who I have seen in other things, and I just can't place him right now. And I just thought, okay, so I know Kiernan Shipka is about to be gone. I know the boyfriend's going to be gone in some way because, like, Glen Powell is the male lead in this movie. And I was like, okay, and that probably means everyone's going to be gone. I was like, but not Javi. And then the very beginning, Javi stays behind. He's doing the data collection. So he's staying behind, and the rest of the team is going into the storm. And I was like, that's how that works. We're about to lose everybody. And we do. You get your opening sequence death. In 1996, it was Joe's dad. In 2024, it's her entire team aside from Javi. And you get your immediate F5, right? Something I did miss from this movie that they didn't do was obviously the score that got used in Twister when the tornado was out. That like that like ramping up sound. I can't do it very well, but it's like it's not even a score because I could not tell you what kind of instrument makes that sound, but it does feel musical, and they do it multiple times throughout the movie. But I'm honestly, I have no idea. But I do talk about it in the last episode. It's that like, nah, that's as good as I can do it. And honestly, it's pretty good, but it's just, it's not going to get you there if you're not really into the movie franchise. You're not going to know. So, Twisters, we've got everybody. We know Daisy Edgar-Jones is the main character because she's the first person we see, but also she's on the poster. So, no surprises there. Then everybody dies except her. They get stuck in the F5. They're running through. The only option they have is to run into an underpass, which is not a good idea. It's basically just a wind tunnel at that point, but they don't have any other options because this was supposed to be an F1 and it was not. So they're running through, and then Praveen doesn't even make it to the overpass. He gets ripped up um, by the storm immediately. And Kiernan Shipka, who's a tiny girl or woman, doesn't get picked up. She's within 3 feet of him. I just find that a little bizarre because he doesn't get hit by debris and picked up. It's just that the wind is so strong. So the fact that she doesn't get picked up, a little odd to me. They're running, they're under the underpass. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with this is that her boyfriend makes it to the underpass immediately. he makes it and he helps her get up, and she's trying to help Kate get up, and they're all like scrambling to run up this concrete. And maybe 3 to 4 feet to the side is the dirt or the grass hill in the underpass, where had they just ran up in the grass and then tried to cut over into that little bar area towards where the underpass or overpass meets right here, where they do hang out, or she does because no one else really makes it. Why wouldn't you have just noticed, oh, I can't run up this for the 45 seconds, a minute we're watching this? After 10 seconds, where you're going back down, right, right here, up and over a little bit. Kiernan Shipka's character gets taken out by a piece of debris, and I was just like, whoa. And then her boyfriend, I think something, he's on top of her, holding her and keeping her safe. She's in a little gully, so she is the safest. And then something, it sounds metal, just takes him, and she starts screaming. She does get cut up by, I want to say, a piece of like aluminum, which is kind of funny because I told you guys about how I lost a piece of my roof once, and it was that aluminum. It will just cut you to bits. So she's the only one alive. And then you see her kind of walking out, and she looks like she has been through hell because she has. And then it goes forward. We're 5 years in the future now. So the one of the things though that happens while they're driving and they're trying to get like all these barrels of the polysodium carbonate, I think that's baking soda. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. So that's certainly not it. Um polyacryl. I'd need to move on from this cuz it's going to upset me. Um is while they're driving and the trailer falls over and they're like, "Oh, let's push it back." That thing has got to be like 600 pounds. And they're going to push it back over in a tornado. And they do because her boyfriend goes and grabs a giant metal rod to leverage it. And this part, I wish he died right then because this annoys me so much. You do not sit in a tornado where it's lightning everywhere and thundering and go, you know what's great to grab right now? A giant metal rod. He should have died then. I think it was more dramatic that he died a few minutes later, but he should have died then. Don't grab metal. Don't grab metal while you're in a storm like that. Certainly don't grab a metal rod and then just be like, oh, here I am, lightning, beacon me up. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way they flip it over and the stuff doesn't even work. It doesn't matter. And of course, at that point, she's very ambitious. She is the Joe of this movie, where she's like, I got to get it done. But her being the one that quits is a little bit of a twist, right? Because Joe never quit. Joe kept going, even though everyone was in danger. So it's 5 years down the road. We had our EF5 at this point. Um, she's working in like a weather room in New York. And then we find out that Javi survived, which we already knew if you saw the poster. He's obviously going to be a bigger character. And so he comes up to her to New York and he's like, hey, I'm doing some stuff and I've got new technology and I could use your instincts. And I found that really interesting because Joe in the 1996 version is the one who has the horrible EF5 losing everyone background or losing someone background. And they gave that to Kate, which is Daisy Edgar-Jones' character. But then they also gave her Bill, which is Bill Paxton's character. His name is Bill in the movie as well. They also gave her Bill's like weather instincts, where it's just like, where's that puppy gonna fly? Right this way, right here. So they kind of combined that a little bit, which I found interesting. And I really liked seeing Daisy Edgar-Jones get to be like the smart head. Here we go. This is all the instincts. Like, it's brilliantly done. So Javi obviously is there and he's making that pitch where he's like, come on, I need you. I need your instincts. I've got tech now, and maybe you could come out and assist. And she's like, I don't do that anymore, Javi. I've moved on. I now just sit in a weather room and I say the weather is weathering about in the Tri-City area. And then he's like, well, look, I could make a 3D model now with my PAR system that I have prototypes from investors and from the fact that I was in the military for the last 5 years. Because when everything went down, Javi went to the military. And unless you're watching a military movie, like a G.I. Joe or something, the military is not going to be like, let's partner with them. That's not how that goes normally in films. So immediately I was like, partner with the military? No, no. He just has military grade tech, which is pretty cool. And he's partnered with investors. That's all he says at the beginning. To help because they want to put this military grade tech all over little towns so that they know when stuff is coming. Now, in the real world, we would all know that that tech is incredibly expensive, and little towns are not the place where anyone with money pays any attention. Is that all right? No. Is that the case? Yeah, 100%. No one's giving a crap about a 1,000 person town, even if it does constantly get hit by tornadoes. They probably care even less at that point because they feel like the property value is lower. And that's just a little spoily Easter egg for a little bit later. Um, and then she's like, "Oh, this tech does look pretty cool. Maybe I could help. Like, maybe I could go out there and use my instincts." Because he's basically like, "You're the only one who's going to be able to tell me exactly where to go so that we're in the right spot to track this tornado from 3 different angles to get the best visuals so that we can use that data." And so she's like, "I'll give you a week." And I think that's really funny because Bill only gives you a day in 1996. So now we've got a whole week. And then we see her in Oklahoma and she's with the Storm Par team. And immediately, I see the Storm Par team and all of their like uniforms and their white trucks. And I thought, that's Jonas's team. That is Carrie Oll's character from the 1996 film. I was like, that's the Jonas team. That's the science team. They're in it for the money, not the science team. What is our main character doing on this team? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make a lick of sense. And then as soon as that happens, everybody's losing their minds in the house. Hey, 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 hey. Aspen. Oh my God. Hey, Charlie. Oh, hi, buddy. Hey. Is she being mean to you? Yeah, you alerted me. I could see it, but thank you, Domino. So we got Domino off camera, who got very, very upset because Aspen, who is my oldest cat, is also the meanest cat, but not really. She's a bully, but not to anybody but Charlie. And Charlie, as you can see him, oh yes, he's the gentlest, sweetest little gay man. And I don't allow Aspen to bully him like she likes to do. It's very much so when you see videos of cats and they're laying together and then all of a sudden one just gets up and starts knocking the absolute crap out of the other. 100% the vibe here. But it upsets Domino when it starts happening. And then Charlie will just try to walk away. And Aspen's trying to just put him in a full Nelson. It's very bizarre. But now he's sitting with his mama. So you feel safe and comfy? You copping a feel again, buddy? Yeah? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to have to hold on to him for a little bit because the streets are rough out here. And if you're thinking, what am I going to do about Aspen? What can I do? She's a cat. She loves her mama She loves her space. Sometimes she loves Charlie, and sometimes she doesn't. And I don't know what to do about that. I tell her no, but she's tiny too. She's a little cat. Oh, yeah, she's just a little gangster. Okay, can I get back on track, please? Yeah, I know she did. But I need to get back on track, okay? And I can put you down, or you can sit still. You look like you're going to sit pretty still. Okay, so, uh, oh, by the way, the co-star here, Sir Charlie Pancakes. I do think this is the first time that he's come over here while I'm filming. Aspen likes to come over because she loves Mama. But this is the first time we've got our Charlie cat, huh? Baby. Okay, I gotta focus, buddy. So, the science team, I legit was like, they're in it for the money, not the science. What are you doing, Kate? And then we hear a loud country music coming around, and we see that big old red truck. And I thought, oh, okay, here comes the next main player. You safe? Okay. I was like, here comes the next main player. And it is. And this is when we get introduced to Tyler Owens, who seems incredibly fun, albeit obnoxious. Like, it's obnoxious to be playing your music on a speaker outside of your personal vehicle in a place that's populated by people. Like, it's the same energy as these freaking Gen Zers, I want to say, but also I know it's millennials that are doing it, that like play music on speakers in public places. And it's just like, no one wants to hear your nonsense. No one wants to hear it. Unless you are an ice cream truck, you should not have speakers playing any kind of music outside, right? Or if you're like at a concert, because that's the whole purpose. But I mean, in the streets, okay? So that's how we meet Tyler, and his whole caravan comes through. Shout out to that red truck. It's very much so a callback. So we've had a few callbacks at this point. Dorothy, the EF5 taking away people immediately. The instincts for our main character situation, like they know what's going on. I just feel like I'm always covered in cat hair. Sorry if I look bananas on the film. We got our instincts. Now we got our red truck. And Tyler pops out and he's got fans. And that is a totally new concept for this because social media didn't exist in 1996. So he's got fans, everyone's yelling, he's throwing out ridiculous t shirts, and with that horrible catchphrase, which is, if you feel it, chase it. Um, don't do that. Don't do that, pedestrian individuals like myself. You don't go chasing tornadoes like that. That's how you get yourself killed. Okay? So, not a great message there, Tyler Owens, but we see that he's vivacious, right? He's vivacious and he's fun and he's there. And immediately I was like, okay, but that seems more like our team, like the good guys team. He is obnoxious. Like they make that clear that he's larger than life when they pop him on the screen. And I think that that was a brilliant way to kind of be like, maybe he's, the annoying one. He's the opposing team. But I didn't buy it because there's no way that we are going to be friends with the Jonas team. But I do appreciate having those different angles, right? Like seeing it from someone else's point of view. Because 100% Dusty was playing loud music out of his speakers in Twister. So it's also a callback there. And then, like I said, his ridiculous catchphrase, which he only says, I think, 3 times in the whole movie. I was very worried because I saw it pop up on a little video, like not a full trailer, but just a little video. And that was the only thing I saw him say. And I was like, oh God, okay. Um, And then he introduces himself to Kate. She's pretty cold. She has already asked Javi who it is, and they're just like, oh, the cowboy storm chaser or something like that. And his social media following, and they try to make it seem like that's really a bad thing. And I just want to point out that, like, as far as I'm aware, awareness is always valuable. Now, making something seem more glamorous maybe than it should be is dangerous, right? Like, I know that women leaving school and going to LA and being sex workers in the 90s, those numbers shot up because of the movie Pretty Women, right? And a lot of those women were like, this is not the case. No millionaire, billionaire, anyone has taken me off of the street. Now I'm on drugs, or I'm pregnant, or millions of things that can happen when you're a sex worker. It's a really dangerous field to be in, way more dangerous in the 90s. That's my point. That, like, glamorization that you get from movies where you're holding stuff on a pedestal where the reality is not there. And so they kind of are showing a little bit of that when it comes to Tyler Owens's, like, social media following, because these people are, like, basically doing, like, tornado tourism, where they're following him around to some places to see the tornadoes. Luckily, they stay back a little bit, but it is still kind of ridiculously dangerous. Just don't do that, okay? I'm just saying, to the young people that I am still technically, don't do that stuff. Okay, we're moving on. So we meet Tyler. Kate's like, who is that? They kind of meet. And then we also see Ben pop out of the car, and he immediately is so stodgy. You can tell immediately, like, because there's a tiny puddle right where his door is when he gets out of that truck. And you can see that he's like, you want me to step in water? And it's like, sir, if you're going to be storm chasing, you're getting wet. Okay. You're getting wet. You're getting muddy. Almost guaranteed you're going to get hurt. So hop in this puddle and start getting comfortable with the muck. Ben is a totally new aspect to these movies. Like, there was no prototype for him, really, in the last film. And Ben, in my opinion, should have been and seems to be the prototype of if Louis Theroux did this interview. Ben is an English journalist who is going around with Tyler to get information to write about American storm chasing. And if that's not a Louis Theroux article, if I've ever heard of one, like, come on. They should have had him cast as that. I also want to point out that the actor who plays Ben does a fantastic job. It's not that he did a bad job in any way. It's just that this was so clearly Louis Theroux. Why didn't he just do it? Just play yourself, bro. Do we think that it would have taken away from the movie? Would it have been, I don't know. I think it would have been really funny because the moment I see him, I was like, that's Louis Theroux archetype right there. British journalist in the mud and the muck, trying new fun things, writing cool articles. Like, come on. So we have Ben out there, and then Kate's playing with, like, a dandelion to check wind direction and stuff like that. And Tyler comes out and he's like, that's how I used to do it. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Very friendly, very genuine. And Kate, not as friendly. Like, she's already so annoyed that this man was playing his music loud and that Javi was like, oh, he's, an influencer, that she's just written him off already. And she's pretty rude to him. And I know that you're not owed to have to be polite to somebody, but she almost goes out of her way. Immediately, it's that, like, tension, and it just feels a little less genuine when there was tension with the first movie. Because in the first movie, the tension between Bill and Jonas and their teams is because Jonas came from their teams, and then he left to chase money and clout instead of being a true blue scientist who cared about helping people. But that's not really the case with Owens. He's just louder. And she's immediately like, I don't have time for that. It's not for me. So he's like, which direction are you looking? And she gives him false directions and then leaves. And then as soon as she starts leaving, Ben is like, "Isn't she going the wrong direction?" And Tyler's like, "Nope," because he knew, and he just graciously takes it to be like, "Yeah, she's just messing with me. Is what it is. I get it." Like, what a wonderful way to behave when somebody's kind of snubbing you for no reason. She has no history with this man. She's just being snotty. And I think that that's important to point out. There was no reason for her to be so snotty towards him. That cattiness was unnecessary. She could have been like, "Well, which way are you going? I'm not going to give you my hints." No, she gives him the wrong directions. He knew because he is also, a really good, smart storm chaser. I think the other thing to point out is later in the movie when she finds out that he is an actual meteorologist who has a degree. And she's like, "He does? Really?" It's like, yeah, of course he does. Also, why are you judging a book by its cover, bro? Like because he's Southern from Arkansas? He couldn't possibly have a degree? Come on. Like the I'm so not into behaving that way with people. Like with how they come across when it's so broad like that. Now if they're wearing, you know, a Confederate flag or other things that are kind of popular right now, yeah, judge them, okay? But if they're just a little bit more exuberant than you and have an accent, like, come on, come on. So that's just that's how I feel about it. I feel like she was not being so chill, and she definitely was judging a book by the one sentence someone else gave her. And they do a good job of making them seem like they could be kind of the obnoxious team because they come in kind of loud and they're all exuberant and they're having fun. But when I watched it the first time, I was like, well, they're being kind of annoying. And then when I watched it the second time, I was just like, no, they're just having fun. They're making it an event. And there's nothing wrong with having a job that you also have fun in, especially when it's something as dangerous as important as what they do, you know? They've all got that mutual level of respect for each other and taking care of each other and all knowing their stuff. Whereas the Stormpar team very much so has this hierarchy of like, we're all top billed from Ivy Leagues and we're very important. We're taking everything very seriously. And that's also an okay way to be, but it is a little stuffy. And they definitely didn't have any heart, and that's a problem for me. I love heart, right? So if people are running around, they're like, "Well, the way to do this is just this because that's what science says." I'll always be like, "Ugh." And then if it's someone who pops on and they're like, "You know what's a cool way to fix this thing?" I'll be like, "Oh, okay, I got you. I'm listening. Teach me about sciencey things." I like science. I just can't think of a single thing that's sciencey right now, which is kind of silly because that's everything. So, moving on. Stormpar does have their trucks named Wizard of Oz style again, which I think is great. It's obviously another callback to the Wizard of Oz itself, but also to the movie from 1996 because they had Dorothy, and now we've got the lion and scarecrow and wizard as the trucks that Stormpar has. So at least they got a little bit of personality in there. And then we get this callback in the first movie. They're driving and then they cut off the opposing team. I'm pretty sure it's Joe's team cuts off Jonas's team. And then they do it to each other later in the movie in 1996. And the same thing happens in this movie, where in this one Tyler cuts off the Stormpar team. And they're like, "Ah, what are you doing?" And then later Stormpar does the same thing to them. Those are both just callbacks. They're very small, but I'm like, "Oh yeah, I recognize this." The other thing I want to say is, especially when it comes to Scott, the second in command on Stormpar, that's 100% Jonas's character. He's got the little headset. I don't know. He has like the same nose as Carrioles, and even though he's not blonde, like he's wearing the cap, he's a tall white guy. He has the same cadence when he talks. He sounds just like it. Very, very good to take the Carrioles prototype and then make Scott and be like, there he is, because it's basically the exact same character. And they do the same with Tyler's team. Like, if you look at the 1996 team and then you look at Tyler's team, We've got the um we've got like that woman who has shaved her head in both of them. Like, that's a very little detail, but I noticed it immediately where I was like, "Oh, okay. She's here in both of them." And then I don't know if I saw it as much in terms of looks, but in terms of just personality, you know? Like, I feel like Boone very much so has that same dusty energy, like the Philip Seymour Hoffman character, that like fun, everything's a blast, this is great, I'm so happy with my life kind of like energy. And then we have Lily, who I couldn't give you a specific prototype or like who she's most similar to in the last movie, but what I will say is that she's just great. I don't know, she has very little like screen time and not very many lines, but it's the woman from American Honey, where, as far as I'm aware, she got hired for American Honey. She was just chilling on the beach and someone saw her and cast her in that movie just based on her look. So this is the only other thing I've seen her be in that I'm aware of. And she doesn't have that many lines, but when she does, like, she's cool, you know, she's cool. She's cool and she's chill and she seems like a good person, you know, this character. So I really like Lily. Um and then so Tyler takes them off the road, and they're all like, "Ah, hey!" And then Stormpar has nicer material because they got that military funding, baby, or investors, and so they are able to overtake Tyler's team, and they pass him. And Kate's just like, which is Tyler's stupid freaking little hand gesture that they do, which is wrangling a tornado. And so she kind of does that in the window, just goading him a little bit, which is kind of fun. But also, I just don't feel like the rivalry was genuine enough here. So they end up passing him. They get up to the twister, and the two trucks that are supposed to be putting two of the three little Stormpar radars. Yeah, that's the word. Radars out. They're able to plant them. And then Javi's like, "Where am I going, Kate? Where am I going? You need to get me within 300 meters. I need to blah, 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 blah." And she gets him there, gets out of the truck, sees the tornado, and then is just like, we gotta go. And he's like, "Do we put it on?" She's like, "No, no, get in the car, get in the car." And she gets in the driver's seat. And Javi, trusting her and her instincts, is like, "What do you see? What do you see? What changed?" And he's like, "Are you taking us to a better position?" Nah, she's driving in the opposite direction because she's straight up choked. And then she's like scared. The tornado goes in the other direction. Tyler kind of passes them and is like, "The tornado's that way, guys. What are you doing?" And then Tyler and Boone and Ben are who's in the truck at this point. And Boone is like his camera guy. And Tyler goes into the tornado, and immediately I was like, "The F is going on?" Because I didn't see it, but he does have anchors. I just didn't see it in the first one. He has anchors, and he anchors into the ground so that he doesn't get pulled up because it's a small enough tornado. The wind speeds aren't going to be enough to pull it up while he's anchored 2 feet on each side, or 3 feet on each side. And so they go into the center of the tornado and then shoot off fireworks. And I was like, "You redneck frickin' POS. Like, come on, that is so ridiculous." And then he's like, "You asked if fireworks could go up in a tornado, and they can." And I was just like, that does sound like some dumb stuff that people would be saying online. So it's funny, but it's also a little annoying because I was like, "What are you doing? Like, what's the point of that even? Just to do it?" And then Kate is trying to apologize to Javi, and he's like, "It's fine. It's okay. It is what it is." And then, like, the tornado goes off, and Tyler and Boone get out, and they're all like, "Woo!" And yipping about. I could have done that louder, but I'm worried that it'll be like crazy on this microphone. And then Ben gets out, and you see him kind of wobbling, and I was like, "Oh, he's done for." And he is. He vomits right there. And then they just all start laughing. And before they go into the tornado, they're talking to Ben a little bit. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm from South London. I got in yesterday." And then they start getting closer, and they're like, "Put on your harness, Ben." And he's like, "Do what?" And so he barely gets it on. And Tyler's just like, "Yeah, we're going into a freaking tornado. Come on. Like, what do you expect?" So they have harnesses in the truck and it's very cool. If this was a real thing, like I would 100% do that just to see what that experience is like. And I feel like it'd be really cool. Although I do think I'd want to wear earplugs because I just have a feeling that the wind situation would be ridiculously loud, like whistly howl craziness that I just wouldn't want to deal with. So then we get back to like Kate and Javi, and the way Javi's looking at Kate, I was just like, oh, he likes her. Like you could tell immediately that he likes her. And then we've got the like little playfulness of like, well, I'm glad to have you back at least. And she's like, I'm not back, which is absolutely a callback to the last movie between Bill and his team because he says that like 7 or 8 times. And then Tyler like pulls up and he's like, I thought you said to go in the other direction. Like, just so kind to be like, hey, thanks for trying to play me, I guess, and she's just like, well, I guess you didn't listen, and he's just like, okay, cool, bye. Um, And then uh, that scene happens when they're already at the motel. So they're at the motel, and basically all the storm chasers are around the same motels. And so Kate is going to her room when she's passing Tyler and his team, and he's just like, oh, so the one in the east was going to dissipate and burn out, and the one in the west is strong. And she was just like, well, it didn't fool you, so oh well. Like, no remorse. And I feel like she should have some remorse because it was pretty rude, you know? And also, I don't understand how they are rivals in any way. Like, they're competitors. I don't think they're competing. So I don't understand the purpose of behaving like that. I don't know. It just kind of frustrates me because it's very clear that she just saw him and was like, don't like that nonsense. And then just moves on. It's bananas to me. So that's when she finds out that he is a cowboy scientist. He's got the degrees, and she's like, really? Wow. And I don't know. It annoys me so much because judging people like that is bananas to me. And then she goes, wow. It's like, I can't even do it, but it is an Owen Wilson wow if I've ever heard one. Like, that's not Owen Wilson. Like, she did it, and I was like, Owen, are you in? Did you do a one word voiceover for this movie? Wow. Wow. I can't do it. I'm horrible at impersonations or anything unless I'm not thinking about it. Um, and then we see Javi like putting together it cuts basically to next day. Um, and we see Javi and Scott, who's baby Jonas basically, putting together like this folder, and he shows it to this guy who looks like if I don't know. He's got bad vibes. That's what I'll say. Because I was going to say something the movie was too mean because that's still a human being. In the movie, he's got incredibly bad vibes. And he's wearing a tan suit. And it's not a good look. And they're like, these are all the homes. And then Scott's like, they were all underinsured, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, Javi, you're the Jonas team. I can tell because you got a mini Jonas sitting right next to you, but you're not in it for the science. You're in it for the money. And I was just like, oh, what are you doing? How are we supposed to root for this team? Kate, hey, you can't be riding in their nice trucks. You don't want that uniform. Come on, what are we doing? So I just had a little bit of an existential like meltdown right then, in the movie. Not right now. I'm already prepared right now. Um, and then Kate is, walking around outside while this horrible back shady deal is going on. And she's looking around, and then Tyler's like, maybe we get off on the wrong foot. I'd love to get along and blah, blah, blah. Because she's just being icy towards him again for no good reason. And she's like, you know what? Sure, sure. And he's like, we could be out here all day. So it'd be great if we could at least get along. And she goes, yeah, sure. How about I go get you a drink? And he's like, really? If you'd like. And he's squinting because it's all sunny and shit. And he's like, if you'd like, I guess a nice tea would be nice. And she goes, yeah, let me go get that for you. And it's just like, bro, why are you? It's not like he said, go get me a drink. Like you offered. It's so bizarre. And then she leaves immediately and and as she's getting in the car, Tyler's like, "Oh, she was faking me out again." And he gets in the truck. He gets the jump on her. So he's out before she is, and then she gets annoyed at that, and it just made me laugh. Also, around this time, we see a yellow biplane, and I don't know if this is a purposeful callback, but we do see it again in this movie. But there was a yellow biplane in Twister, just like in one of the scenes where it's just flying by. I don't know if that was purposeful, a purposeful detail, but it feels like it is because otherwise, what a bananas coincidence. So we do get that little callback. And then we get where Kate is talking about tornadoes, and then Tyler, like, it's like an stitched together where it's Kate talking and then Tyler talking, and it's going back and forth and they're obviously not together. And Tyler is talking to Ben and he's explaining tornadoes. And then Kate is explaining it, but not like the people in her car don't know. She's just saying, like, oh, if this happens and this happens. And then it's back and forth. And you can kind of see where they both have that passion, you know, foreshadowing that they're going to really get along in like 10 minutes. So that's great. Then we got twins. Now, keep in mind, I didn't see the trailer until afterwards. So I was like, yes, what a stellar callback line. It's not losers move on, it's not cows, but we got twins, you know? So I was so excited because I said it in the theater. Because the first time I saw it, I was also alone because I'm going in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. And, you know, so people aren't there. And so I see these two twisters go out and I go, oh, we got twins. And then immediately Boone says it. And I was like, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I was too excited. I'm still hyped about it, just thinking about it. And I was just as excited last night when I saw it again. I was like, we got twins. And then, um, and then they like split off. They don't go together, which I think in Twister they merged together and they made like one monster baby because that's when Joe and Bill are in the red truck. That's when they get stuck on the huge branch and then the tricycle goes through. Yeah, yeah. So they merge in Twister, but in this one they split apart. And Javi's like, Kate, which one's gonna stay? Which one's gonna stay? You know, you need to make a decision. Please tell me. And she goes, go right, go right. And they start going right, and then she looks and she sees how the wheat is kind of like moving, and she goes, go left. And I was like, oh. And so she goes left. Now at this point, Ben is asking questions to Tyler and Tyler's team about Kate, and they don't have any answers. And Tyler's like, "Isn't your piece about me, Ben?" Because at this point, Tyler is fed up with how snippety and rude she's been. And he's like, "Well, yeah, I just find her intriguing." And he goes, "Yeah, well, this is where the story is, buddy. Don't worry." And then Tyler's team goes right. She goes left, and he goes, "See, she just made a bad call." And then I was like, did she? This is going to be, where's the twist? You know, like what is happening? And so they go right and we follow them and they start to anchor down. They're getting ready. They've got the harness on. Boone's in there putting rockets in for flares for when the tornado gets up there. Lily's in the truck with them at this point, and it's like really exciting. And then right before the truck, it just dissipates. And then you look over and where Kate and her team are, that one's still going strong. And the thing is Scott is in Javi's ear and he's like, who's even running the show? You know, like why are we following her? The one to the right had better numbers and they had gone left, and then obviously left was the right call. And Scott's a dickhead. So he at no point is just like, guess I was wrong. No, because that's not how he behaves. And so she's totally right. They get all three sensors out there, and then the one that they place like doesn't even kind of chill on the ground. It immediately gets sucked up and they're like, oh god, what are we gonna do? And so it was maybe 10 seconds. I was very confused. And while Javi's backing up, he backs up into like debris that's going this way, and it's a chicken coop. And she's like, "What was that?" And he goes, I think I just killed a whole bunch of chickens. And I was like, "Oh, okay, we don't get cows this movie, but we got chickens. It's farm adjacent, livestock." So I kind of laughed because I was like, "Oh, a mild callback, like it's there, but they changed it up a bit." And then finally, when the tornado ends and this like chicken lands on the roof of Kate and Javi's truck, and I was just like, "Oh, that's funny," because you it lands and it's like, and I was just like, "Yeah, classic chicken. What a classic chicken." And then she sees the radar and it's headed towards the tornado system is like headed towards Crystal Springs. And she's like, "Hey, that's a little town. We need to go help." And Javi's like, "I have to get the radar. It's got a GPS on it. I have to go find it before the GPS dies." And she's like, "We need to help people. Let's go." And then the next scene is them in the town trying to help. And she's walking around and Javi's like, "Hey, it was a good call to come out here and help people." And I was like, "Good on you, Javi." And then you see Scott is there and he's like bringing in tan suit man. His name is Marshall Riggs, but I don't think we should name him because he's a jerk face. And we see tan suit man and he's like, "This is my uncle Marshall and this is the owner of this bar." And that's when you really start to click like, "Oh, this is like a developer guy." Earlier in the movie, you do see a billboard for Marshall Rig Development, but unless you read it and are keeping that in your brain, it's just, it's a Chekhov's gun. It's something you're going to see later in the movie. If you caught on, you'll notice the whole string through. Regardless, he's a developer, and basically what he's doing is when people lose everything, he gives them the bare minimum amount of money because they don't have insurance to rebuild, and he acts as if it's a gift. And then he takes their land and develops it into new stuff where he makes 1,000 times profit or however much, And using the storm technology, he's able to, you know, predict the storms and everything like that. But also, probably with newer infrastructure, knowing you're in Tornado Alley, they're going to build it a little different so that it is better quality, is what I'm going to assume. Like when you live in a hurricane area, like they try to make your houses maybe on stilts or something like that so it's more hurricane resistant. In Tornado Alley, I don't know how you could make your house more tornado resistant, like heavier or something, or having anchors that dig really deep in the ground so that your house doesn't just fly off into the wind. Unsure. Regardless, I don't want to talk about development. I don't like this guy. Scott is very much so making it clear why we don't like Scott. And then Javi's over there and Kate's kind of looking around and she's helping and, handing people back like photo albums and stuff like that. And then we see Tyler and Tyler's out there helping too. His whole team is. And he's trying to find a dog. And then he sees her and he's like, "What are you doing out here?" And she's like, "I'm helping. What are you doing out here?" And he's like, "I'm looking for a dog." And then he's like, "Helping. Is that what Storm Park calls this?" And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, but it looks like we're helping to me." And he's like, "What do you even know about the people you're working with?" And I was like, "Oh, he's getting snippy. He is sick of her being so rude to him." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Do you not even know who you're working for and all of the stuff they're up to?" And she's just like, "What?" And then he's like, "Whatever." And Ben comes up and he's like, "I don't got time." No, because I think she makes like a snide remark about him being like on YouTube where she's just like, "Aren't you just in it for the clout and the fame?" And then Ben is walking up and he's like, "I don't want to talk right now, Ben. Why don't you ask Kate? Seems like she's got all the answers." And then Ben's standing there with his pen and she's just like, "Not right now, Ben. Sorry, I got other things to do." And goes to walk off and they go in opposite directions. And then Kate goes up to Javi and Javi's like, "Here, take the truck. I'm going to go look for the radar and like you go back. It'll be fine." And then Kate is leaving and Lily runs up to her and tries to hand her like food. And Kate had already clocked them like setting up a table at the beginning of the scene. And she kind of like rolls her eyes because she's like, oh, they're out here selling t-shirts and water bottles, and mugs to these people who just lost everything. And Lily's trying to hand her food and she goes, sorry, I don't have any cash. And she goes, no, it's free. And she goes, what? And she goes, that's why we're always selling the t-shirts and stuff so that we can help, you know. And she goes, oh, well, then save it for someone who actually needs it. And I was like, good on you, Kate. And then Lily's like, all right, well, at least take some water. And Kate's like, oh, okay. And then she pans over, and that table they had set up is not them selling stuff. It's them giving out t-shirts and cups because, these people don't have maybe anything anymore, but also handing out meals and water and basically aid. And that's where you really get to realize that Tyler and his team, who maybe aren't all upper crust boring, um, he's using his platform and the money he gets from that, they all are, to help people that are losing their homes. And it's just like, oh my gosh, what a wonderful, beautiful human being Tyler is, you know? It's like a little bit of a tearjerker if you're someone who is a big old softy, and I totally am. So for me, I was like, oh my gosh, he's a good person. Why are you being so rude to him, Kate? God. And so that's like the end of the scene. Kate drives back. And then we see her in her motel and she's doing research on Marshall Riggs. Spoiler alert, he's a jerk face. And she didn't know, so we can't really be mad at her. But it's one of those things where she's, doing the research and then you hear a knock at the door. And I was like, if it's going to be Javi, he's a jerk. And then, um, and then Sorry, I took so many notes, so I'm trying to scroll, but I've been talking for long enough where I didn't need the notes, and now I'm trying to get to the point where I'm making sure I'm doing it right. Yeah. So knocks on the door and she opens it and it's Tyler and he's like, "Hey, I thought maybe you might be hungry." And he's got like a pizza and which was one of the meals I considered for this, but I just don't feel like pizza right now, you know? And so he hands her a pizza and she takes it and she goes, thanks, and then closed the door on him and then sits back on the bed. And I'm just like, what? Why? Why do you have such a bee in your bonnet? Like, why are you being so freaking rude? Now you know that he's not making cash grabby BS for social media, which, by the way, if he was, it's still not horrible. There's still the awareness happening there. You know that he's educated, maybe more than you, because we find out you didn't finish your PhD. I think Tyler might have one. He's good hearted out there helping people, finding dogs. He's done literally nothing. Why are you being so rude to him? So she sits down on the bed and then she's like, I get, and she like opens the door and he's still standing there where he's just like, oh, hey. And he's like, look, city, New York or whatever he calls her. Cause she had said she came down from New York and she doesn't show that she's from Oklahoma. She's from Sapulpa. And she also doesn't tell anyone her last name because she doesn't want people to know that she's the same Kate who lost her whole team 5 years back. And so he's still standing there and he's like, well, New York, I wanted to show you something good because you've seen basically just all bad of here and there's still some good around here. And she's like, okay. And he takes her to the rodeo and he's like, bet you ain't never seen nothing like this. And she's like, well, I'm from Sepulpa. You keep calling me city girl. I'm from right here. And he goes, oh, all right. And then we get to see a little bit of a rodeo. Like we see a little bit of barrel racing, a little bit of like bull riding. And I feel like we see calf roping as well. And just for any British people who might possibly listen to me now because I watch a lot of British TV because I absolutely love British humor and actors and talent. But my God, does it annoy the absolute bananas out of me with how you guys say lasso. Because you guys all go lasso, and it couldn't make me angrier. I know that if a whole country or multiple countries are doing it, it kind of becomes part of the zeitgeist, and it is what it is. That's how you say it. It's lasso, guys. It's lasso. You lasso. You don't lasso. I don't understand why you do a double O sound. There's one O. Lasso. Lasso. This has been a Lasso PSA, and I will let this go and move on now. Okay? Looking at you, Greg Davies. Looking at you, um, oh, New Zealand person who was on Taskmaster. Rose Matafeo. You're brilliant and you're smart and you're funny, and it's Lasso. But also, every culture says things differently, and that's totally acceptable and understandable. And this is a personal pet peeve, and it doesn't even matter. Okay, so they're doing like calf roping, which is where you usually you do it with two people. Yeah. And you're on horseback, but you're lassoing and one person tries to get the back of the calf's legs and one person tries to get the front of the calf's legs, or not the legs, the front is the little head, and that stops them from being, I don't even know. Um I've been to so many rodeos in my time. I really miss it. I love a good rodeo and the food, which is just heart attack city, but it's wonderful. Anyway, so they have a little heart to heart, and then all of a sudden the weather starts to change, and she's like, "Were you tracking out here?" And he doesn't even respond because then the siren goes off, and oh my gosh, that siren sound is just, it's like that. I don't know. I'm not going to make it a whole bunch because it's too loud. But that siren starts to go off, and then the announcer guy is like, "Hey, tornado touchdown very close to here. Everybody needs to leave, needs to get out." And then immediately, instead of anyone being civilized and being like, "Okay, walk quickly, but normally to your car," they're pushing people over, knocking, just immediate stampede mentality. And it's absolutely bananas, and it bananas and bonkers. It drives me insane every time because they're in the parking lot and they're like hitting each other. It's like, hey, you know what? If you just use some common sense and calm down just a little bit, like your panic causes more accidents or hurt or kills people faster than anything else does. And that's a real thing that happens where like somebody here, oh, and then everyone panics and it's every man for themselves. And you're out here pushing people over and knocking people down to get past them because you're so scared. You end up killing people. Okay. I know this is just a movie. I'm getting very passionate twice in a row here, but just chill. Like, make your way quickly. Don't dawdle, but also don't lose all sense of civility. Your life is not more important than someone else's just because you're able to push them down is rude. Remember that panic is not the action that you should be going off of. Yeah, I understand being scared, having a little fear, and being like, I need to get out of here now. But you got to be able to be calm in those situations. Otherwise, you make rash, bad decisions. Moving on. So everyone's panicking. They make it back to the motel because the rodeo was right around the corner from the motel. So they literally walk back or they, you know, run, scurry. They scurry back. And we're in the lobby, and this guy is like yelling at the motel clerk, front desk reception person. And he's just like, this isn't working, and the pool is empty, and blah, blah, blah. And he's just yapping up a storm, and then his girlfriend's sitting behind and they're like, "Hey, we need to go. Do you have a cellar?" And the guy's like, "Oh, what?" And he's like, "Excuse me, I'm complaining here. There's a line." And he's like, "Do you have a basement? Do you have anything where we can get down low? What do you have?" And the guy's like, "I just started." He already had said he had just started working there, because the guy's like, "I don't want to give you a bad review, but like, come on." In the middle of a tornado. And she's like, Kate's looking around, and the girlfriend is behind, and she's just going, "It's not a tornado. It's never a tornado." And I don't know why I feel like she's chewing gum in my head, but maybe it's just because that's a really annoying way to like, it's not a tornado. It's never a tornado. And then the Tyler grabs her and like moves her from the window, and right then something falls through and she's like, "It's a tornado, it's a," and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. And I was just like, yeah, yeah, because they've already made it clear it was a tornado. The sirens are going. Like, come on, context clues. There's no harm in prepping and then there not being a tornado a lot of harm in choosing to ignore it and there being a tornado. Like, use your common sense, people. Anyway, so they grab, there's a woman and her daughter in the lobby, the front desk gentleman, uh, Tyler and Kate, and then that annoying ass couple. And Kate's like, this way. And Tyler's like, follow her, which I love that he's just like, she's got to be right. Let's go. She sees the pool, which obviously she had heard was empty. And so you got to get under, like the lower you can be, the better. And so they're all running out. The mom gets in first, then the daughter, and then she's screaming for the couple because they get in their truck. And she's like, no, no, come back, come back. And they don't listen and they drive off, literally drive into the tornado and just gone. And I'm fine with it because they were annoying as hell. And so then Tyler gets there, the front desk guy, and front desk guy gets in, Tyler gets in, and then boom, like a vending machine, I'm pretty sure, falls in. Kate has already made it to the other side and has helped the mom and daughter. Like, there's water pipes right there, which, hello, there's that callback to when Joe and Bill had to strap themselves to the metal pipes. Same situation here. And so she's already helped him and she's like, cover her eyes, stay low, blah, blah. And she's holding on. And then Tyler's trying to help the front desk guy who's super scared. And he's like, stay down, stay as low as you like. Tyler is like inching with his like fingertips to like get to this guy. And the guy's like, I can do it. I can do it. He's like, no, stay down. And the guy doesn't listen, pops up a little bit, gets thrown back, still in the pool. And Tyler's like, I'm coming for you. Please stay down. And the guy is like, not listening at all. Just obviously what you already did wasn't working. Why are you going to do it again? But okay. And so he gets up a little bit and then boom, he's gone. And Tyler's like, ah. And then another thing, I feel like it looked like a truck or something, like a piece of a vehicle, drops down like right next to Tyler. And Tyler is like low, crawling. He can't even army crawl because that would probably be too high. So he's like crawling on his fingertips, like, you can't see my hands, like to get through. And that truck is coming down. And then he is right on top of Kate. And so he's holding on to the metal bars. Kate's underneath him. And we don't even see Tyler's face. Like, we just see his body and we see Kate and she's panicking. And she can hear the mom saying, I've got you. I got you. Everything's going to be okay. I've got you, to her daughter, which is the same thing her boyfriend was saying before he got taken by the wind. So she's holding on and just like really scared. And then it passes and we pan up and we see Tyler's face, who's just like dripping in water. And you can see that he too was very scared. I think that's really important to say, hey, these people who are professional, who do this thing professionally, it's still scary for them. They do it because they enjoy the science of it, or maybe the thrill is nice, but it's still a scary situation no matter who you are, especially when you're out in the elements. So I really enjoyed that. And then next scene is like, paramedics and everything coming out to the motel, and Javi shows up, and because he knew where she was staying, this is her motel that just got flattened. And she's just like, Javi, are you benefiting off of people's, um, tragedy? And he's like, what? And she's like, is that part of the business model? And then he's like, look, Kate, I'm doing what I need to do, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, how dare you, basically. And then she takes the keys to the truck and she just leaves. She doesn't say bye to Tyler, who literally had just brought her dinner and then like took her to the rodeo and then helped like helped her survive. She could have survived on her own, but he was there. He just went through all of that. And she doesn't even be like, I got nothing. She just storms off. You see him kind of look after her, or he's just like, okay, goodbye. And okay. And she goes back home because she's already in okay. So it's easy to pop up the 2 hours to Sepulpa from where she is. And I'm really annoyed at how they filmed this scene, or this like one little snippet, because she goes home this whole time, aside from at the very beginning of the movie where they say the last name, which is Carter, not Harding, so you already know. Um, the whole time, the way they made this seem, freaking fly driving me insane. The way they made it seem was that this was going to be an original character, because you kind of see the mom in a photo immediately, but it's dark and they keep the mom in the shadows for probably 2 or 3 seconds. So you're just like, "Who's about to pop out?" Right? They built that, and then she pops out. She is not from the original cast, and they had made mention that they're not going to have anyone from the original cast, but this was a mistake in my opinion. You can have a sequel that you want to stand on its own and still have some original cast member, specifically Helen Hunt here, because she could be an original cast member, be playing the same role. Her kid would be this age at this point, and you just what? Don't? Like, if you couldn't get Helen Hunt, okay, that makes sense. It would have been really funny had they gotten like Jamie Gertz, where she's like, and then my daughter, that would be so funny. That's Melissa from the 1996 Twister movie, the therapist who's not into Twisters. Anyway, that feels like a missed opportunity for me, for her to be like, well, your daddy loved chasing storms, I love chasing storms, and now it's you. You know, how did she get Dorothy if there's no connection whatsoever? It's annoying to me. The mom comes out and she's just like, "Hey, let me," and, helps her clean her room up, and then she goes to bed, wakes up the next day, and she's looking at her, like, project and her notebooks, and, her mom's out there just like, "Hey, I'm waiting for you to save the world," and I'm not, and she's like, "Well, throw it all away," and she's like, "I'm not gonna throw it away. You have stuff to do. Like, go save the world. What's wrong with you?" Basically. And then Kate's looking at her stuff, and she's looking at her middle school science fair project, which, by the way, phenomenal. Like, very, very cool. It's a little town, and then she created a wind situation to make like a little mini tornado to test it. Like, that's amazing. And then while she's playing with that, guess who shows up? You just guess. It's Tyler. He just appears. And I immediately was like, how would he have found her? He didn't even know her last name. And she goes, "How did you find me?" And he's like, "Well, somebody recognized your name, Kate, and we realized who you were. Plus, Javi knew where she lives and everything, so that's also possible." And she goes, "Oh, okay." Because she was keeping that secret. And she just goes, "Okay." And he goes, "I'm sorry about your friends." And I was like, "Oh, he is. He's so sorry." Like, he all puts it together for him. And, like, I don't know. It's so sweet that he deals with her being very unpleasant to him this whole time, and then still drives 2 hours to go see her and make sure she's okay, even though they just went through that tornado together and she just left, said nothing, you know? So, I thought that was just incredibly sweet. And then the mom comes in and she's like, "I'm fixing food." And she's like, "Are you ready?" And Tyler's like, "Oh, I won't be staying." And Kate's like, "No, he won't be staying." And she goes, "He's staying." And I was just like, "Thank God, Mom, someone's in here being polite, because Kate is acting like a heathen at this point. She is being incredibly rude. He has done nothing. Even your first, like, your book covery assessment of him was obviously incredibly wrong. He's an educated, intelligent, generous man who has saved your life or assisted you or been there during these life-saving moments, and now has come to make sure you're okay because he figured out what happened to you and he just wants to be a pal. Come on, you know? And so it just pissed me off, and I really appreciate the mom being such a wing woman at that point. Now here's the thing is, if if Kate wasn't interested in him romantically, that's totally fine. But to be fair, the the chemistry there is so subtle that at this point you could still assume that it's not flirty. Like, he's not doing anything where he's just like, "Well, I'm interested in you." And this is purely friendship still, you know? Like, that's the vibe. He's not coming on really strong or anything like that, cuz that would be totally different. So it's just a little bit odd how she behaves. And then um I was kind of laughing because he calls himself a tornado wrangler. And then she, when she was still really passionate, she was saying it's taming a tornado, you know? So they basically have the same monikers, like the same. situation that they define themselves by, identify as when it comes to these tornadoes. It's really cute. And then I appreciate that he is like, he's seeing her science and everything. He's like, this is brilliant. We could do an updated model. This could work. This should have worked, or let's do a model. And she's like, no, no, leave it alone. And then she like yells at him. She's like, it's not right. And when it mattered the most, I was wrong. And it cost me everything. And she's like, cry yelling. And he just kind of looks at her with immense patience. And he's just like, okay. And then the I don't know. It's so heartbreaking because I can't understand that level of loss, you know, but she portrays it super well, where you can tell she's just eaten up by guilt because it was her science project for the grant that they were trying to get, you know, and it was her being like, "Let's do it. We're going today." And then she lost everyone, including someone she probably loved all of her friends, but one of them was also her romantic partner, and here it is, all in her face again, and she probably is just completely remembering all of the mistakes and feeling like it's all her fault. And Tyler's looking at it and he goes, the the scale for tornadoes isn't based off of size or wind speed. It's based off of the damage, the destruction it's done. How big are you going to let this one get before you're able to forgive yourself and let it go? Stop letting it take up so much of your life. And I was just like, oh, that's a good pep talk. That is a good pep talk. Um, and then, they go and have a meal. I thought that's so sweet, They have a meal. He's so like country respectful, like exactly what you would hope a country person is. And I've definitely met a lot of people like that, especially since I grew up in that area. Um, just like, I don't know, polite and kind and down to earth and like the best kind of people, in my opinion. And so they're having that meal and they're talking about, how much Kate has always loved storms and weather. And her mom goes, the worse the weather, the happier the girl. And I was like, ooh, I can relate to that. And during this scene, you could tell that they've already kind of eaten and they were having mashed potatoes and ribs, and I think they had some bread there, but I don't feel like making rolls right now. And they had mac and cheese, and I'm not hungry enough to eat mac and cheese as well right now. But I've got some of it going on for once I'm done with talking to you guys. Just kind of a little unfun because my food's always kind of cold by the time I get there. But I also was a little too awkward to eat during shooting, so I'll figure it out. But here we go. Here's the meal. And so he ends up spending the night there because she's like, I got Tyler in the guest room. And Kate's just like, and I'm thinking, lady, you're hours out. Like, come on. And so he spends the night and then he gets up like early, first thing in the morning, and it's raining. And he is wearing a white t shirt and a cowboy hat, probably a Stetson. And he goes out in that rain. And I just thought, oh my goodness. Okay. And I am not someone I won't sexualize a person, especially if it's not a person I'm dating and know, right? I don't think that that's an okay way to behave, even with famous people. I think it's great to look at someone and say like, "Oh, you're a beautiful person," right? Or like, I understand that you're an attractive person, but I don't sexualize anybody because I don't think that you should treat people like objects like that, Daisy Edgar-Jones, that's a beautiful woman, right? And Glen Powell, that's a very cute man. And personality wise, going on, like the Tyler Owens personality um made this like one of the most attractive characters I've ever seen. Because for me, I'm also a huge personality person, right? So maybe Daisy Edgar Jones in this movie, personality wise, for the first 3/4 of the movie, I'm like, she kind of sucks. She's a total downer. But Tyler Owens' character, like, ideal person, in my opinion. And then him coming out with like t-shirt, cowboy hat, I was like, hey, that's a good look, sir. Looking, that it's a good look. And I appreciated it. And I I wrote this in my article, but like I wasn't a huge like I'm not a Glen Powell person. I saw him in Top Gun Maverick apparently, which I really love that movie, but I was probably very focused on the planes. And I'm pretty sure I've seen him in like Spy Kids. And I hadn't seen Anyone But You before I saw Twisters. I didn't go see Hitman because for me, I was just like this he wasn't a part of like a I'll go see the film if he's in it. Based off of this character, now I will. Now if it's a Glen Powell film, I'll go see it because I think he did such a good job and he's in this film. He's so sweet. Now, I don't know who he is as a person or how he is as a person. I hope that he's not a jerk, but in this film, I was like, yeah, that's the kind of person that I like. Sweet, down home, fun, kind of obnoxious. I don't really mind that, I guess. Like I like that like fun energy because I think I have a lot of that fun energy. Um I won't play music in public on speakers cuz I'm not an asshole, but I am fun. I never mind. I was going to say something stupid about how I'm fun, but it just sounds lame out loud. Yeah, so I walked away from this movie an absolute fan of his, and then when I saw him in a white t-shirt and a cowboy hat, my immediate thought was, everyone looks good in a cowboy hat. That's just across the board. I don't think I've ever seen anyone wear a cowboy hat where it doesn't fit their face, their hair, their anything. I look good in a cowboy hat. So when I saw him in that, I immediately thought, that's a good look. And I wish I had a cowboy hat because I know I could pull that off. So it wasn't even like sexualizing him. It was just that I was like, that's a good look, you know? Because like I said, I don't choose to sexualize really anybody. I think that you should look at as a person first and foremost, always. And personality wise, the character of Tyler Owens is like very much so my type in terms of, fun, adrenaline, educated, kind. That's the best kind of person, you know? That's the best kind of person. That's who I am. I'm fun, educated, kind, from the South even. So I okay, the point of this rant is that Glen Powell looks good in a cowboy hat. Everyone looks good in a cowboy hat. I want a cowboy hat. He has a white one. Like he has one of those ones that's white and it kind of looks I don't know what that material is. It almost looks it's not a straw hat, but it's like it's very wickery like that. I don't want that. I want a black cowboy hat like I used to have when I was a kid. I used to have a black cowboy hat. I think I had a black cowboy hat that had like that. It was a felty one and it had like that braid that went around it. I just think that I would look really good. Um, And maybe that's just me sounding incredibly full of myself. But you know what? No, that's me being confident and me also telling you that you, whoever you are, would also look great in a cowboy hat because it fits everyone's face. Every single person can wear a cowboy hat. And let me tell you, I have a hat head. I have a hat head and face. I can wear any hat. And that does sound very cocky. But you know what? That's my superpower. I can wear any hat and pull it off. You know what? I can wear a fedora and still look kind of cool. Okay? But it looks good, actually. It looks great. It's just that the fedora now has such a vibe that I don't mesh with. But like baseball cap, absolutely, I look adorable. Backwards, still look adorable. A fedora, a sun hat, a bonnet, like bonnet hat, you know? Um, I don't own one because I think they're a little too white for me, but those like golf visor hats, I bet I'd look adorable in that. I'd look so freaking sporty. That's why I don't own one because it's too sporty for me. Cowboy hat? Hell yeah. But they're kind of expensive, the good ones. So all I'm saying is if you need to feel a little more confident in yourself, my favorite outfit that a man can wear when it's like an everyday outfit is jeans and a white t-shirt. Maybe a black t-shirt depending on the vibe. So jeans, a white t-shirt and a cowboy hat, that's what it was. Oh, that's what it was. That's the perfect outfit for like an everyday vibe. I think women probably jeans and a white t-shirt, I bet I look great in that. I mean, I know I look great in that because I have that outfit because it's one of my favorite things to wear. Or sometimes I'll wear a white button down with jeans because that also looks good. This is becoming a fashion podcast where I talk about literally one type of outfit. If you want a comfortable outfit that looks good on basically anyone, it's a white t-shirt and jeans. Keep in mind if you're wearing a white t-shirt and it's thinner or more see-through, you should absolutely be wearing a tank underneath. Wear two layers because that goes from looking great to looking trashy if it's not done right. Just keep that in mind. I've talked too much about this, and I also felt a little bit bashful because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I just wanted to make it clear that that's such a good look for anyone, I believe. So moving on, and we've got he's leaving. He's got his little bag and his outfit. He's getting in his truck and he's like kind of pausing there. And then Kate runs out. It's in the rain. And she's like, "You really think you could get me a better model?" And he smiles. And then Javi shows up. He smiles and they start doing like some work and they see the model. And it's really cool looking. It's a great graphic. And they see the model and then he's like, "This should have worked, Kate." And she, "Is it still working?" Oh God, I hope it's still working. I can't check until after. Okay. Hello? Okay. Yeah. So Kate and him are working on the model and she's like, "It should have worked. We don't know why it didn't." And he's like, "Well, let's test it again." And then Javi shows up. Tyler's standing outside and Tyler just goes inside and Javi is just like, "I would have done anything for you, Kate." And that's when he finally, and like, what a classy way to gently drop that is just like, "I've been in love with you for however long we've been friends." Um, and she kind of sees that and just like there's that understanding and then it moves on. And I think that's really great, especially if you're pining after someone for so long and you don't get the response you want and you don't throw a fit and you don't decide we can't be friends anymore and you don't behave like a child. That's excellent. He just is just like, "Just so you know, this is how I felt." And then she acknowledges and it's you move on. And I think that's classy and some people should take some notes because no one owes you their affections, no matter how much you care for them or think that they should care for you in that way. And I also think it's really valuable, especially when it comes to friendship, because a lot of times I know, especially for me as a woman, which is the only real, place I can speak from is like if someone tells me they like me like that, especially if we are friends or were friends, and then you kind of feel like, is that the only reason you were my friend? Is that the only reason you were nice to me? Because you wanted to sleep with me? And it's kind of disheartening. So I'm glad that they handled this in a pretty mature way. And we move on. So Javi takes his truck back, and then Tyler and Kate like go out, chase a tornado. Their mother flies. They go out, they're chasing a tornado, they anchor down. She gets in her harness, she looks real scared, but also very mesmerized. And I think that's really important, you know? That's how I feel when I see stuff like that. And they let out the polysorboacrylate whatever it is, the little moisture balls, and it sucks it up. And then they're like laughing because they think maybe it worked, and they look over and the tornado's still going. And she's like, "It didn't work. It didn't work." And then they realize that they're not adjusting for like the water in the air. So I'm pretty sure that means like humidity that's around it. So there's too much of that, and it's basically, I don't know how do you describe humidity if someone didn't everyone knows what humidity is, right? But like, do we know? Like, we know the word and we know the vibe, but like, what is humidity? Because it's not steam. It's it's water. I know it's just the water that's in the air, but it's not heavy enough. So it's still fueling the tornadoes. So they have to make it turn into rain. And so they're going to do that with iron, iodine, I don't know. They're going to do that. And then that's when they finally head back to the rest of Tyler's team. And they go and before they head back, Tyler gives Kate's mom one of his Tornado Wrangler t-shirts, which is really funny because she goes, "Oh, thank you." And he goes, like, I don't know. It's so funny. And then the mom shows Kate, and Kate's like, where it's kind of like a silly little inside joke. And it's very funny because the graphic on the tee is a little ridiculous. So it's funny. Um, I don't know. It kind of cracks me up. So then, yeah. So then Tyler meets up with his team. Oh my gosh. It's like, is it an eyelash? Should I cut this piece? That'll be really annoying to have to cut 30 seconds. You know what? Deal with it. I had an eyelash in my eye. Okay. Um, Tyler and Kate go back to the team and they're like, "Hey, Kate, finally joining the fun team. Woohoo!" Like, totally bringing her in, being incredibly nice about it. And then you see them picking up a trailer, and they got to pick up an aluminum trailer because it's the right type of weight and stuff. I think that might be a slight callback because with Dorothy, they added aluminum can pieces to the Dorothy pieces to make them fly right. So they're doing the same thing with this trailer because basically they're, I think they're considering like the trailer needs to be light enough but also heavy enough and blah 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 blah. They pick an aluminum trailer, and then they're filling the rockets that Tyler was using for fireworks. They're filling those with the iodine, iron, blah 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 to make the rain. So they're gonna do that and then throw out the poly little white pieces that are supposed to help the tornado dissipate. So they're getting all of that together. You see Boone kind of giving Tyler the cold shoulder because he left without him. And then he's like, "Well, I got new rockets." And Boone's like, "Oh," and it's so cute. It's like such a boy, like a yeah, like a boy relationship. Just like, I got rockets. If you won't be mad at me anymore, we shoot rockets. And then, oh, okay, shoot rockets. It's adorable. We got Lily with her drone, and then it's time. Like, we're going into the storm, and then I keep wanting to say the Jonas team, but it's not them. The Storm Par team is going into. So Javi's in. He's ahead of Tyler and Kate and their team, and they are at. I want to say it looks like a power plant. And here's a piece of the movie Into the Storm that really annoyed me. Because I had been so excited for that movie. That movie is from 2014, and I didn't love it. I probably would like it more now, just because I take things way less seriously than I did in 2014. But it really annoyed me because at one point it looked really cheesy. They had fire nados, and I know that that was supposed to look really cool. And for me, I was just like, ugh. So when I saw the power plant and it started to catch fire, and I was like, ugh, don't do it. And they do kind of have a fire NATO situation, but it's so much more like you can just see that the fire is being kind of like pushed around because of the wind, and it's not a full fire tornado that's running around being fire. And so it's not nearly as cheesy, and it didn't annoy me. I got very close where I was like, you better not, don't do it, don't, don't, and they didn't, so it's fine. Javi and Scott are in the truck, really close to all of this happening, and then they get knocked over, and Kate is screaming, and she's like, "We gotta go save him!" And Tyler starts backing up, and she's like, "We can't leave," and he's like, "We're not leaving. We gotta back up so we don't get hurt, so that we can go save him." And then Javi's truck gets hit with like a big old piece of debris and it knocks him right back over, which is kind of funny. And he's able to like zoom right on out of there. And then Kate sees that the tornado is headed towards a town and she's like, we got to go warn them. This is like, it's a big boy. It's a big boy. And and Tyler's like, yeah, let's go. And so the whole team starts heading towards El Reno, which is a callback not to the movie, but to an actual tornado situation that happened, I want to say in like 1926, 1929, something around there. There was a huge tornado that happened over there. And so that's a callback to actual tornadoes that have happened, which I think is really cool. It's something they did in the first movie as well. So I think it's great to honor these natural disasters in that way without making it literally, oh, about this one tornado. You know, it's like, here it is. Here's that callback. We're aware of the history. Anyway, so they all start going to El Reno, and then Scott is like, look at them. They're scared. They're going the wrong way. And Javi's like, no, they're going to help. And he's like, we should help too. And Scott's like, absolutely not. We need to get this data. We need to make that money. And he's basically like, I went to MIT and I've got hella student loans. So if you could just help me make that money, Javi, let's ruin people's lives and make that money. And Javi is like, nah, dude, I don't want this life anymore. I feel bad about myself and I'm moving on. I'm growing up. So that's exactly what they do. And well, that's exactly what Javi does, but Scott is yelling at him. He's like, stop the car. You better turn around. And so Javi stops the car and Scott gets out to start setting up the sensor and Javi just drives away. And as he drives away, he just covers Scott in mud. And I thought, good, because if this was 1996, you would have died because Jonas died. So this is the least that could happen to you, Scott. And Javi drives to town. And then we go back to our main characters, and it is all of like Lily and Boone and Ben, Kate and Tyler. And Ben is still trying to be like, trying to be a journalist. And I really love this scene because he gets out of the car and he grabs his camera and he immediately looks up in his camera and he kind of sees everything going on. And immediately this man puts his camera down and then starts helping people like the rest of the team. Beautiful, very quick, wonderful character arc for this man who was incredibly scared, probably is still incredibly scared, is British, so he's not dealing with weather like this ever. And a little bit, he's that British gentleman, upstanding citizen kind of situation. For him to go from that literally 2 days before to this situation where he puts down his camera and he just starts helping people and he's like, you got to go this way. And he's learned enough that he can be helpful. I don't know. It's a really small moment, but it's really heartwarming and I loved it. And so the whole team is helping people. They're getting people inside of, it looked like a school gymnasium at one point, and the movie theater, which is another callback because in one of the twisters that the whole team gets stuck in, they're watching The Shining in a drive-in. And this time they're at an actual movie theater. And then Kate is there, Javi's there, Tyler's there, they're helping people. Or no, I'm so sorry. Wind this back like a few seconds because Ben is helping, and then we see Kate and Tyler are helping, and then there's like a tram and it starts coming towards and it's got debris and it pins Tyler. And I legitimately was like, are we, are we gonna, is Tyler done? And Kate is trying so hard to get him unpinned and she's like trying to move the debris and I am so stressed out because I was like, oh my gosh, she can't lose someone again. Also, we don't want to lose Tyler, but like this will destroy her. And she's trying and he's like, Kate, please, I'm stuck. You gotta go because the water tower for the El Reno water is like coming down. And he's like, please go inside, Kate, like go, you need. And she's like, I won't leave you, I won't leave you. And at one point he's like, Kate, go. And then Javi appears and Javi has a wooden rod, not a metal one, has a wooden rod and he helps leverage, boom, and they get Tyler out and he's a little hobbly, but he's still helping. They get to the movie theater and they're getting everyone to go to the back of the room because there's no cellar and they're running back and forth to see, is there a cellar, is there a basement? There's nothing. There's nothing. And so Kate's looking around and she's like, ah. And they're like, we got to get everyone to the back of the theater. And you see Ben helping and Lily's helping and Boone's helping. And then you see Kate just look out and Javi's like, what are we going to do? This building, this is not built for this. This building will not be able to withstand this. And there are like 60, 70 people in here, all crowding into the back and like huddling down. And then you just see Kate leave and take off running, and Tyler doesn't notice, and she gets in the truck because she's going to go try to tame that tornado before it hits so that everyone doesn't die. And so she is driving the truck and she makes it, um she makes it all the way over there and she anchors down, and she's like waiting to be able to press the button. And then that's when Tyler realizes that she's gone. He sees her like driving out and he's like, Kate, Kate. And he's panicking. And Javi is trying to get the doors closed. Boone's trying to get the door closed. And he's like, we got to help these people. You have to come. Like you. And you can just see that Tyler is like, I cannot lose her. Like we just became buddies, maybe more in the future. Like I can't, like, please, why? No. And it's so, because you can see it in his face. Like Glen Powell did a fantastic job of conveying that with literally no words, just like that level of worry. And also earlier in the movie, when he'll look at Kate sometimes when she's like taking photos and stuff, and she's just like, it's so beautiful. And he at no point says one of those stupid lines that actually I think I would like in real life, but in a movie, I'm over it, where like the female character's taking photos and she's like, can you believe how beautiful it is? And then the guy will always go, yes, you are. Oh my gosh. I cannot stand crap like that. Anyway, Tyler never says anything. He just kind of looks at her like awestruck and fascinated. And I was like, that's good. That's subtle. That's how I like it. So I think that's really sweet. And then he also had told Ben, like, she is your story, Ben. And Ben's like, cool, yeah. So it's very sweet. Glenn does a great job of having these moments where all the acting is just done in the face and the message gets across easy peasy lemon squeezy. So she's driving out there. He's panicked. And then you don't even see the truck anymore. It's just, oh my gosh. And then he's like, okay, okay. And he goes to help. And as he goes to help, like they're getting everyone in the back of the rows, like away to the center of the building, basically, because it's going to be sturdier there. And huddled down. And then the wall where the movie is, which is a black and white movie, so they also chose an older movie because it was The Shining in the first one, which I think it should have been The Shining in this one, but I'm just greedy for callbacks. And the whole wall where the screen is gone. And now you're basically watching a movie, but the movie is the tornado that's outside. And I thought that that was kind of interesting because why would the rest of the everything not go? Just the screen wall. But it is very interesting stylistically, and I did enjoy it. And then all the seats start flying out, and you see a couple of people fly out, and then every Tyler's like, "Get down!" And as he says that, a whole bunch of the seats like start going, and he grabs them, and they're like, "Oh, out!" And then we see him coming towards like Lily, and Lily starts screaming, and he's like, "Lily!" And he's able to grab her both handed. And then he gets his boot inside of the seat, like his boot is leveraging, holding them there. And she is in the air. And I was so freaking stressed out because I liked her character so much. And I was like, oh my God, we cannot lose some of the team. We cannot. If Scott gets to live, Lily gets to live, okay? And so she's in the air and she's like, don't let me go. Don't let me go. And I was like, oh my God, I am so stressed out right now. And we go back to Kate, and Kate is trying to get the button to press. And we had seen it earlier. It's another Chekhov's gun where earlier we saw that that button for the rocket for the barrels gets stuck because Boone keeps eating chocolate in the truck. And so we're dealing with that again. Where like she's pressing it and it's not working. The barrels aren't releasing to let the carbonate go out. And so finally she gets it and it goes up. Like the rockets had already gone out, and like made more rain, which you kind of can see in the video, but it's still like pretty, it's not overt, which I think is good because I think that would have made it look too dramatic of a change. And then finally the barrels go out, and then the trailer gets ripped off, and you can see the anchors are like being pulled in the dirt, and those are like 2, 3 feet deep. And so they're pulling her back like at least a foot, and you're just like, oh crap, like the wind speeds, bananas, bananas. Okay. And so she gets pulled back, and you see it all get sucked up, and then she kind of gets sucked up, and it goes down, and we're back with Lily, and then Lily hits the ground because the tornado's gone. It's ended, it's done. And they like Glenn gets up and he's looking out, and you can see the truck in the distance, and then we see Kate like start crawling out of the truck because it's flipped over and she's in the mud. And this scene absolutely feels like a Jurassic Park scene to me, when Alex is in the car and she's like getting through the mud. She's wearing that ribbed like racerback. It's basically the same scene, like getting out and in through the mud. I don't know why that's what I think of. So she gets out and she's like looking up, and Tyler gets to, ooh, okay. Tyler gets to her, and then the whole team gets to her, and he's like, "You did it. You did it, Kate." And she's like, "Did I, is everyone okay? Did I save everyone?" And everyone's like, "That was crazy." And Ben's like, "You're brilliant." And Boone's like, "I love you." And she's just like, "What?" And Tyler's like, "You did it. You did it, Kate." And then, we got like that happy little moment. And then next scene, you know, we got Kate at the airport, and Javi drove her. And then Javi's like, "Don't forget this and this." And you find out that they're about to pitch what just happened for grant money and stuff like that. And they're now partnered up. And I was like, oh, great. They're going to stay good friends. Like, wonderful. And then we see that Tyler's right in front. And Kate sees that. She pops out, and he's like, "You gonna tell me when you're coming back?" And she's like, "Might never." And then once again, you see his little face just drop, where he's just like, "Okay, well." And she's like, "I gotta go." And he's like, "I can't tell if you're bluffing or not." And she goes, "I guess you'll never know," which is just kind of that joke because she kept like misleading him throughout the movie. And she goes into the airport, and I was just like, okay. And then Javi is like, "Come on, man," and like pats him on the back. And I was just like, Javi is giving you the blessing, dude. Like, come on. And he's like standing there, and the airport worker guy, who looks very familiar to me, I want to say that he is in The League, that TV show, but I don't know what his name is in real life, and I apologize to him. I want to say it's Andre something. I bet it is. I think it is Andre something. I'm not even gonna look it up. And he's like yelling at him to move his, because he can't park at an airport, like at the departure area. And so he's like, "I'm coming, I'm coming." And then he's like sitting in the truck where he's, contemplating running inside the airport. And then the guy pops up and he's like, "Hey, what's going on, man? Get out of here." And he's like, "I'm gonna have your car towed." And then Tyler does something that I'm pretty sure is illegal, but a great gesture for this movie is he anchors the car with the drills into the concrete so that he can't be towed. And he runs inside, and Javi's like, "There, atta boy." Why is Javi also not being yelled at for being parked in the same area? Okay. And Tyler runs in, and they kind of start to exchange, or they don't exchange any words. You just see like their silhouettes, and they're smiling at each other. And then there's an overhead, um yeah, an overhead message, and she's like, "All flights have been delayed due to inclement weather." And then you're just like, "Oh, okay, you're not going out anyway." And so he grabs her bag and starts rolling her out, and she just follows him. And that's it. That's the end. You get some end credit scenes and some cuteness, and it's really wonderful. Now, what I will say I found really interesting is they're very clearly like romantically interested in each other. They've got the vibe, but they never kiss in the movie, even when he goes and gets her in the airport. And I thought that was really interesting. Maybe maybe the like director or writer or whatever wanted it to be open in the air. Maybe they are just friends and not romantic, and he's letting us or paint it however we want. But for me, I was like, how interesting that they don't kiss in this movie. It doesn't bother me. It's just like I was expecting it at the very end. So I found it really interesting that it doesn't happen ever. And then something else I found really interesting about the movie is the movie itself feels like the same movie, like Twister. And the reason for that is because they did film it on 35 millimeter film, just like the 1996 Twister. And so I thought that was really a wonderful callback as well because it has the same, like the film feels the same. And I mean, not just the movie, I mean the film, like how it looks. It's the same feeling. So it makes sense that it was shot very similarly. I would say that this was like, for me, especially with how much I love Twister, excellent sequel. I could not have been happier when I was watching it. As soon as it started, I actually did tear up. I started to cry. Big part of that is because Twister is such a part of my childhood and my lore, and so seeing the sequel and being completely alone is a little hard. This is something that would have been wonderful to share with somebody, and I just have no one to share things like this with. And so that was a little hard. And then I think as soon as that kind of hit me, that emotion when the movie first opened, it was also, I realized that Bill Paxton is gone and Philip Seymour Hoffman is gone. And I started, to tear up. And it's the moment I also realized I hadn't seen Twister in 6 years because I hadn't been able to because, Bill Paxton had passed away. I think, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed away in 2014 and Bill Paxton passed away in 2017. And I had been able to see the movie after Philip Seymour Hoffman had passed. And I think that's just because Dusty's parts are a little bit less, obviously. But I hadn't been able to watch it since Bill Paxton. And watching Twisters felt like I got to come home again, to a movie that I absolutely loved, but without that sadness for most of the movie. At the very beginning, I had it, and I kind of like, I let myself feel it for the first minute or so, and then it subsided. Basically, as soon as a Twister came out, I was just like, here we go. Here it is. And I kind of forgot my sorrows, you know? Um, because it means a lot to me. And so I think they did a really wonderful job. And for people like me who I'm a true blue fan of this movie. It's not, I'm a fan because the sequel was coming out and I remember liking it back then, so I figured I'd give it a go. No, this movie's meant a lot to me, and everyone did a really good job. I was really, really pleased with it. It is one of the only movies I've ever seen in theaters more than once. That's not something I usually do. I will say a big part of that is because I wanted to take notes so I could do my best for you guys here. But also, like, I was really happy to have the reason to get to see it again. And I think something like Twister and Twisters, the best to see on the big screen, right? And I don't know if I saw Twister on the big screen. It was 1996. I was 3 or 4 years old, depending on when it came out. Probably three, because I was born in December. So basically. So even if I was in the theater, I don't remember it. And it's a wonderful movie theater movie. You need the big screen. I bet this would be phenomenal in like 4DX, where the seats and everything move. Oh, I should go see if that's an option. Or IMAX or something like that. So if you don't go to the movies very often or you don't ever think about it, consider it for this movie. Give yourself a little treat. Take your family out, Have fun. This movie is fun. This movie is a love letter to fans, and it's also something a little new and different. This movie was great. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's got everything you would want. It's got action and comedy and a heart and a little bit of a thrill and a little bit of romance, in my opinion. So I highly recommend it. So far, it is my favorite movie, new movie of the year. Um, I haven't seen anything else new though, so it's hard for me to judge that. And I hope that you go see it. I hope you enjoy it. If you are watching this actually and you haven't seen it, then I've definitely spoiled everything. But I did spoil warning the entire beginning of this video. So that's on you, and it's still worthwhile to go see. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm going to finally dig in because I am incredibly hungry. And I would love to hear from you guys about what you'd like for me to watch next. Not today. Today I'm going to go see Deadpool versus Wolverine, or Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm going to go see that. But after that, what should I go see? I hope you guys have a great day, and bye, babes.